The rapporteurs are busy putting together a number of issues they have captured, and we are expecting that they will give us a report by the time we get into the closing session. So we're missing one presenter, but oh, she's already here. Excellent. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, your three presenters are here. This is time for any questions. I want us to probably organize this a bit differently. Let me first of all ask for questions or comments for Dr. Meguri Saithre. Any questions or comments relating to the presentation that we heard from Meguri? Any takers?
Can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I must commend the three speakers, for making very good presentations and quite actually, I was saying that I would like to commend the three speakers for making very good presentations. Quite impressed with the data that you have given to us. But the question I would like to pose to you, and then one general question actually, Meguri, is are we losing the battle? I mean, Africa. I'm looking at IITA as the lead institution for research and development in Africa. Are we losing the battle with the fall armyworm? Because fall armyworm, because the map that you showed had red all over Africa except Northern Africa. And then I want to relate that to the value chain approach and ask how much emphasis are we putting in the other side of the value chain. I know that the emphasis is on food production. Your research is based on that. We want to increase production, productivity, and we need to attain food self-sufficiency. But the transformation that we are talking about eventually for Africa is for us to also move to the other side of the value chain into agribusiness, into agro-industry. And the question is, how much emphasis are we putting in that aspect of our work? And then I want to link that to what Sundberg said about the youths moving away from agriculture. And I'm not very sure if I heard you correctly that they should be encouraged to do that. Do you think that if we go all the way in the value chain, that might not attract the youths to come back to agriculture? So even if they do not go into farming as such, they can go into other aspects that we see in the other side of the value chain. Thank you.
Okay, so that was an advanced question for Jim, which he will keep, but I'm still inviting questions for Meguri. Yes, please.
Mine will be like a general kind of question, but you can also adapt it to the individual presentation here. Have we moved to the realm of demand-driven research work? In all of the very nice research feedback or result that has been presented today, nobody has really talked about the uptake or the demand for it. I really want somebody to discuss this aspect. How is it coming? Who is your customer? Thank you.
Thank you. And the last, okay, over there, Gabriel.
Thank you, John. Is to Charlotte, who was talking on Gene Bank.
I'm trying to invite questions for Meguri.
Okay.
First of all, so we can come back to that. Okay, so those are the two questions we had. We had one question on the fall armyworm, and it was also related to how far are we going in relation to the latter parts of the value chain. And then there was also a question about demand-driven. Has that thing fallen out of the cracks, or is it still relevant for our research? So, Gregory, would you want to comment on that?
Hello. Yeah. Okay. When it comes to the fall armyworm, you know, we can say we have lost the first battle because no eradication programs has been even tried to be carried out, as they are done on almost an annual basis in Europe. So, of course, the first battle is lost, and now the pest has spread, and it is established. So, you know, at this stage, eradication is impossible, because the pest is now established in nature and in crops. But I wouldn't say that we have, I mean, we can't say that we have lost the complete battle, because now we have to come up with a range of solutions on how we can control it. We will never be able to eradicate it from this continent, but we have to be able to control it. And of course, we are thinking about short and long-term solutions. Short-term solutions does of course include insecticides, but they have to be applied, you know, at the right time. Long-term solutions is of course biological control, including classical biological control. We will look for natural enemies, and we are already testing exotic natural enemies in Cotonou. So at some point in time, we will probably be able to come up with a solution there, but against a pest like fall armyworm, I don't think there is any single solution. So CIMIC is going to do breeding for resistance. In my view, breeding for tolerance is probably going to be more successful than breeding for resistance against this species, because it's a very aggressive and invasive species. So yeah, we will definitely work on it, but as I said, the first battle is lost. Now it is the second battle to come in position for controlling it. Thanks. Okay, should I just continue with, yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree with you that for a complete transformation, we cannot only rely on the primary production, and that the development of value chains is, of course, very important. I'm not quite sure where sort of IITA's role in that is. You know, to some extent, we do promote processing of some of our crops, but if you're asking for, you know, industrial processing, I don't think IITA is at that level at the moment, at least. For the third question, which was about the demand-driven research, well, I think it would be very sad if our research is not demand-driven. So if that is your impression, I think we have to have some serious conversations about it. But Kwesi here, his job is actually to work with governments, local governments, and national politicians, and actually to find out what are their priorities so that we can align our research priorities according to the needs of a country. Okay.
Thank you, Meguri. I'd like to call, I know the FAO rep is sitting over there, to make a brief comment in relation to the fall armyworm, and then I also call on Kenda Shield to make a brief comment in relation to the tail end of the value chain, how significant it is in the IITA agenda, to add to that. So Dr. Sufyan Koroma.
Okay, thank you very much. As of today, the data we have indicates that the fall armyworm is in 32 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. but the approach is where the presenter said that we lost the first battle. It was nobody was aware of what it was, how it looks like, or what it does. Now we are trying to awareness raising, and even in countries where there are rumors, example Sierra Leone, it has not been declared, but there were rumors that it is there. We sent somebody to go look and go verify. We are doing the same thing in Liberia. So these are the kinds of approaches we are trying to take. Our first short-term approach is biological control. Not the FAO is not recommending any insecticide. It is, and the preferred is neem-based pesticide, which already is being produced right here in Nigeria that we are trying to use. In Nigeria, we are actually working in 12 states, which we launched the program here last week in Kaduna, and we've started already operating in some of the states as we speak. We also, and also with the context of the African Union, there is also a continental framework that has been developed in which now we are looking at it from a regional perspective because these are transboundary pests and diseases. And we hope that as IITA's task force meets, I mean, these things are factored in because we are already trying to work together to see how we could control this pest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Kenton?
Yeah, Christy, thank you very much. Yeah, the Partnerships for Delivery Directorate has a very strong emphasis on value chain development, right from primary production through to the end users, into production of the final product that's sold to the end users. Packaging, what am I going to say? Delivery, all those things are very important to us. We are building up that program now. We expect that over the next year or so it'll get stronger and stronger, and we'll have expertise that can help in the full value chain. And so not that IITA will be researching all these things, but we'll have the ability to advise and provide information on these things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, now we turn our attention to the second presenter, Dr. James Sundberg. And I will start with one question to Jim. When you talk of youth in agriculture, are you equating that terminology to youth in farming? Yeah, I think that's one thing I'd like you to comment on. Now the floor is open. Well, you didn't hear what I said. No, my question was, I was asking Jim, when he sees the terminology youth in agriculture, does he equate that to be the same with youth in farming? Yeah, so we can look at that. Now, the floor is open. Any comments or questions to Jim? Yes.
Thank you. This is certainly a very interesting topic, particularly in Nigeria, and at IFPRI we do a lot of work on youth employment issues, basically on what determines youth employment in Nigeria in connection with agricultural transformation. And what we found is that from a survey we did among youth in various states in Nigeria, is that the perception in agriculture has to change. This is what they said many times. And this is very much related to the need to do something about the education curriculum in agricultural universities in Nigeria. This is something that also the Minister of Agriculture has mentioned many times. The need to have a change in the case of education curriculum in agricultural university in Nigeria, therefore providing incentives for the youth. And of course, another important issue is related to land governance issues and how to provide incentives to the youth in order to be engaged in agriculture. So it's a very wide set of questions here, but I really enjoy your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the youth? Okay. Okay, we'll take that and we'll take you at the will. Okay, you give it to me.
Yes, thank you. When you look at youth in agriculture, and of course, we say value chain starts from primary production to consumption. What do you see as the entry points for youths in the value chain.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, somebody on this side. Yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon. I must say, I really enjoyed this session, and when candid facts are placed on the table and good people are locked in a room, transformation begins to happen if we ask the right questions. And I like the question that Kwesi asked, what do you mean by youth in agriculture? I'll take that a bit forward. Because I get scared when we say agriculture is a good entrepreneurship opportunity for youth. Entrepreneurship is difficult. I have been an entrepreneur, and it's not for weak-hearted. I can tell that. So when we do that, like for example, if we take, my question is, how do we compartmentalize? Because if we position different jobs for different kinds of people in different contexts, that becomes more useful. Say for example, in USA, 2% population is there involved in agriculture, but giving 5% to the GDP. In Nigeria, it's 50% or 60% population giving 25% GDP. Can there be a research, or is it useful to see how much population should be on farm and how many jobs should be off farm, so we can know at the context level how many youth are available for which kinds of jobs, so we can build these capacities in those areas and we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jim, over to you.
Thank you for those very interesting questions. I'm going to address them in order. So Monty, I hope I didn't say that youth should be, or young people should be encouraged to leave agriculture. If I said that, I didn't mean to. But it does raise an important point, and it's one that maybe has some broader implications. So we've talked a lot about transformation, and let's face it, transformation's all the rage in everything, not only here at IITA, but more broadly in the whole business of development these days. One of the points we made in that little paper I flashed across the screen from Outlook on Agriculture is that when thinking about rural transformation and thinking about youth, a historical perspective on economic transformation is really important. So we can learn a lot about the kinds of processes of economic transformation that other places have been through. The movement of labor from rural areas to other kinds of other parts of the economy, and so on and so forth. So the idea that transformation is something that IITA does or is going to do to the rural economy, I mean, transformation happens. It's happened from day one. And you may have some role in fostering or maybe in some small way steering that process, but please don't get it into your heads that you're doing the transformation. And so therefore there's a lot to learn from what happened in the past. And I think what we learn about that from the youth perspective is that a lot of labor leaves rural areas. So the idea that the rural economy is going to provide thousands and thousands and thousands of good jobs for young people, historically, it's really hard to find examples where that has been the case. Now, you might argue that Africa is going to do it all different. It's not going to relate to the historical precedents. If that's your view, that's fine, but I think we need to take seriously what we've seen in the past. Kwesi, you asked whether, in my mind, youth in agriculture is the same as youth in farming. No. When I think about it, I think it's a youth in jobs and employment opportunities in agriculture and in the food industry more broadly. So it's the broad suite there. And in fact, in the work that we're doing and some of the work we're doing with Victor, it's about youth engagement in the rural economy. And to me, that gives the broader picture. That's my story about the young person who works in the bar. So they're part of the rural economy story. They're part of the success. If their bar is a going operation, they're part of the success of agricultural commercialization. And we have to be interested in that job and that person as much as the person who's operating the farm or wage labor on the farm or selling the fertilizer. So the question here about the perception has to change. Well, maybe the reality has to change. If young people have a negative perception about a lot of what's going on in the rural economy, I don't assume that they've misread the situation. Because there's an awful lot of people, as we all know, who work in rural Africa and don't have a lot to show for it at the end. So perception, yes, but it's the reality changing that's going to allow that perception to change. So where's the entry point for youth in the value chain? I think the first point is that there's not one entry point, because there's not one value chain and there's not one youth. Okay, so young people who live in some kinds of situations, dynamic agricultural hotspots, if you will, who come from families that have resources, land or a little bit of capital, their entry point may be totally different from someone who has no resources, whose entry point may be as a day laborer on someone else's farm. So again, this is where we have to think difference. It's all about difference, different economic geographies, different young people in different situations. And that's there was talk this morning about silver bullets. And we need to stay away from that. There's lots of potential entry points, and those are going to be viable depending on who the young people are, what kind of assets they have, and so on, and what kinds of situations they live in. I totally agree with the comment about entrepreneurship is difficult. I think that's a truth that we have to say every morning to ourselves. And one of the interesting things that's happened is that in development discourse, the understanding of what entrepreneurship is has changed. So there was a time when if you talked about an entrepreneur, it was somebody who took risks, who innovated, who lost their shirt from time to time, often didn't succeed, really kind of was a special person. Not very common characteristics in the general population. But now, we use the term entrepreneurship to talk about almost anybody who's doing anything that might generate income. So you may be aware of the GEM, Global Entrepreneurship Monitoring Report. It comes out every 2 years. It talks about levels of entrepreneurship all over the world. And basically, if you have a little headpan and a couple of oranges and some cigarettes and matches on it, and you're walking around trying to sell those, you're classified by them as an entrepreneur. And while that's a really important economic activity, I'm not putting it down. I am saying I think we lose something in the understanding of the nature of that activity and whether or not it has transformational potential, either for the individual or for the economy more broadly, when everything gets lumped together and is called entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think those are very helpful. And the debate goes on. Oh, you wanted to make a comment? Okay, let's make, yeah, sure.
I just want to thank Sundberg for that clarification. And I would also like to say that if Africa will achieve that transformation that we're talking about, we have to try to keep the youth in agriculture. We have to try to send them back to agriculture. I guess we're all saying the same thing, maybe in different ways. You know, because what incentive do we have to put in place for the youth to want to remain or to want to come back, you know, to agriculture? I think we should think about that and possibly look at what Brazil did some time back during the days of Lula, when they made cash incentive available to farming communities. It sends back a lot of youth into farming, and in our own little way in Sierra Leone, we started what we call the direct cash transfer to farmers. And it's sending back the youths, even youths that have gone to the city, even groups of disabled youths are going back into agriculture. And I think that that transformation is very important for the survival of Africa. And that is why I'm particular about the entire value chain, rather than remaining in one aspect of that value chain. The whole thing, we should take it as a whole, and with concerted efforts, entry points could be anywhere in that value chain. But we should keep it very vibrant and going. That you produce you get your produce, it goes into processing, it goes into transportation, it goes to the market, and the cycle just continues like that. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Honorable Minister Monty Jones. And I think the issue of perception must change, which Jim referred to, and so sometimes for perception to change, reality must change to drive the change in perception. I think that is a real issue to deal with. And the other one which I take away is the fact that when you do incubation for youth, and some of the graduates from that process end up not directly doing agriculture business, but doing some kind of business, have you lost or have you not lost? Is it a loss or is it a gain? And I think in what I hear Jim talking about, we've got to look at the wider, broader context. You know, that some of these people may end up doing other things, but they have learned from the incubation, which was focused on agriculture, and they found something that they are passionate about and they are doing, and we have to find a way of capturing all that as part of success. We don't see it as a loss because a person did not immediately get into agriculture. You know, so I think that's one of the hidden things that I particularly got from it. Now let's turn our attention now to the heavyweight issue of gene banks. And let's see how many people have questions. I see 1, I see 2, and I see 3. So let's start with Jim.
Yes. Actually, I cheated. I wanted to make a comment rather than ask a question. And it's a bit what was said by Jim and the reaction of Monty that prompted me to just throw that short comment in. I think too often we are looking at a predictable future. We look back at trends and then say, well, this is the likely direction. This is certainly the case for rates of urbanization that are expected in the future. And I think we should really start thinking about what is the desirable future rather than the predictable future, and then correct the course to go in that direction. And I think too little of that is being done. And I think that's something that we should keep in our mind as food for thought. Sorry.
Okay. Second, yes. No, the second was you. Yeah.
My name is Curtin. Thank you for your presentation. It was very nice. And I want, yeah, you're perfectly right to tell that IT is excelling in plant genetic resource. But the Institute is also holding important biological resource, and can mention insect collection, also live collection of beneficial insects, but also forest genetic resources. An example to show how it is important, the last 4 invasive pest insects in West Africa were first discovered by the Biodiversity Center in Cotonou. I can mention the fall armyworm has been detected already 2 years from now. The reaction has taken quite long. My question, also you were pointing out that we are witnessing a genomic revolution, and this opens a lot of opportunities to dig in these treasures, the collections, and get important information out of it. My question is, how do you see the CGIAR will address the need, the urgent need to secure those collections which are now more or less fortuitously kept by special projects?
Okay, and the last one. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you for a rich presentation. I learned a lot. And you indicated that when it comes to the use of the storage you have like 50% of the storage which proved to be not too useful. And I understand that your plan is to try to reduce that number. So not knowing much about how GenBank operate, my question is, what are the reasons behind having such large number?
Thank you. And the very, very last question goes to Dr. Okwo.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the presentation by Charlotte, and it reminds me of our meeting in Ouagadougou some years ago. That time, Christy was still in IPGRI. They all attended. I was representing West Africa and YAM Research and my national institute. A lot of decisions were taken, including establishment of regional centers of excellence of GenBank, because it's a problem. You correct a material, there is no serious analysis. It's all in vivo preservation in the field. If you are lucky, the cattle didn't go through it to finish everything. Or there may be crisis and so on, and everybody abandons the field. That time CGI was serious, and they said they will establish the centers of excellence where we can do even genetic screening using electrophoresis to exactly pinpoint the genetic fidelities of some collections. Because you may collect some materials like yam, which I'm very sure about. The yam we call Mopoko here is called Pona in Ghana. If you go up to the middle part of Nigeria, it is called Audu. It is the same material because, but you cannot say for sure because there has been no electrophoresis to know. During Inco Yam project, sponsored by the European Union, we collected about 183 materials in yam. But later on, when we came to IITA to ask them to help, we discovered that what we have is not up to 50 different materials. They are the same thing, but they were not properly analyzed chemically using electrophoresis. Now that thing died, that decision died down since then. What is CGR doing now to help us? IITA has been very useful to us. We used to keep our GenBank here, including cocoyam and potatoes, but when they slowed down on these crops, they asked us to come and collect our germplasm. We don't have such facilities as here to have electricity all the time for in vitro preservation and so on. And I'm sure if it is so in Nigeria, it could even be worse in other small countries around us. What is CGR doing about that?
Thank you very much. That's a very important question, and I'm sure
I will attempt to answer, but I might also, I'm making eye contact with Michael, and he's definitely not making eye contact with me. Okay, one very important point that I need to make. I understand why you made the conclusion you have, and that is my fault in presenting. It is not 50% of the stuff in the GenBanks that is not useful. It's just when you have made the decisions on what to send out to the user, the stuff is not appropriate for that particular user or that particular use. So, I mean, I think it's important to stress that it's very hard to say how many accessions should be in any GenBank, but nearly always there are uses, and I don't think if you look at the kind of diversity that's in situ or on farm, and you look at it over the kind of time scale that we are, which is many decades, there is it's very hard to say that any of the stuff in the GenBanks is not useful. And I mean, we haven't even delved into the diversity within a single accession, let alone across all the different accessions. So I would like to stress that I don't think the CG gene banks or national gene banks are probably conserving enough. There's more, and there's more important materials out there, and the more we can do to make use of them, the better. Having said that, yes, we have to make strategic decisions about how diversity is represented in gene banks, and certainly how it is distributed. So that is where our decision making has to be. I have a lot of sympathy for the gentleman who stresses about the importance of local collections and national collections, and the difficulty of keeping resources to sufficiently to safeguard the diversity. And I know IITA has been extremely active in collecting yam. They have increased their collection by, I think, almost a third in yam just in the last few years in important hotspots of diversity in Benin and Togo, and I don't know if you went collecting in Nigeria. So they are very active, but it is hard for an international centre to be everywhere, and that's where it's important that there is support in countries for their national resources, and that has to come from governments, because when governments show commitment to those collections, then bigger international institutes or funds like mine at the Crop Trust can help. But if that government commitment isn't there, it's very hard to make that kind of call in supporting those collections. And Michael is going to add to this.
Yes, thank you. Let me just add a couple of points. In the past few years, we have had projects specifically funded by the Trust, which are to do with, if you like, bringing in material from national collections, which may be, for one reason or another, under some degree of risk. And that's been, quite a number of national programs within Africa. We have actually taken material from that. And specifically with respect to NRCRI, we've done quite a bit in the past couple of years with their gene bank manager. We've had several visits to Umadike in terms of capacity development, and certainly we made it clear they have a field bank, for example, of yam. We made it clear that we are open to the possibility of bringing their material into in vitro culture here, maybe into cryo eventually. So although not, maybe that scheme of regional centres didn't develop formally in that sort of sense, we are trying to do it as much as possible as we can with the national programmes in the region.
Final point, I think, on the insect collections, and let's hope this genomics revolution does turn things around, so that I think there's a real problem with raising funds for conservation, and that is why the Crop Trust was founded. It's very difficult to fund these kinds of collections and to sustain them, and they depend often on very motivated individuals working on their own, and then they retire and the collections are lost, and this is heartbreaking. So I have a great deal of sympathy for this, but it is hard. And in things like the genomics revolution, now we will have opportunities to show people a much quicker impact from the resources to their use. And I think our hopes in that revolution have to be somehow supported with feet on the ground, really supporting this work and working together in consortia to improve the hopes, or to improve the likelihood of real things coming out of that revolution very soon.
Thank you very much, and probably this is one of the issues that we should carry through the sub-regional organizations. All the sub-regional organizations are concerned about the inadequate synergistic collaboration amongst countries in their region, and they are taking steps. If you take CORAF, for instance, they have established a number of centers of excellence. But the only thing is, presently, all those centers are focused on single crops. There were a center for cassava, a center for this. Probably there may be a possibility of them beginning to think about establishing a regional center gene banking facility. But there are lots of complications and issues that would need to be addressed. So thank you very much for that question. Can we give a round of applause to our speakers? I think they've addressed very wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So you can, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to congratulate yourself. We are now approaching a very interesting part because we have invited a number of partners with us, and we've come to the point where we now want to hear very brief remarks from them. And as I said earlier this morning, those remarks are not, cast in any one direction. It could be a reflection on what today has been. It could be sharing something within their institution which they feel is relevant for IITA, or it could be basically opening a partnership channel to IITA. So let me first of all call on Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka, who is Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan, to share some thoughts with us.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon. I guess I'm standing between you and your weekend, so I make it just 5 minutes. I think the first thing is for us at the University of Ibadan. I mean, for those who are not familiar with Nigeria, University of Ibadan is the oldest university institution in this country, established 19 years before IITA as a college of University of London. That was in 1948 precisely. Then it became fully autonomous in 1962 after the Act of Parliament. So as we speak, we have produced about 225,000 graduates at the first degree, BSc, MSc, and PhD levels. And at the recent convocation that we had last week, we produced a total of 402 PhD students. So our postgraduate school is perhaps the largest in the sub-Saharan Africa. And in doing that, we have collaborated a lot with IITA, if only to the extent that they are our next door neighbors. So it's so convenient for us. Many of IITA scientists have at one time or the other assisted us in supervising some of our master's and PhD students. And so to that extent, many of our colleagues are also IITA alumni, or alumni depending on the gender and the spelling. And before going forward, I also like to congratulate IITA. I think the founding fathers of this research institute will be very happy with themselves. I mean, I've listened carefully to a number of speakers here saying that at one time or the other, they were scientists, young scientists in IITA, then they went elsewhere and they came back. I think the current DG2 started his career, or at an early stage in his career, he was here. And himself also mentioned the same thing. And I'm still reading a book written by a former vice chancellor in East Africa. He said he spent 3 years at IITA in Ibadan. Yeah. So to that extent, I mean, you have succeeded in doing a lot of capacity building. And I personally know that IITA is a success story. There's always room for improvement. So those who cited this research institute in my beautiful country, they have done us a lot of favor by citing IITA in our city in Ibadan, and by extension Nigeria. So here we are. The University of Ibadan, like I said, is the oldest university in Nigeria, but as we speak, it's not the largest university. We're not the biggest in terms of student population, except when you look at the postgraduate cohort that we probably have the largest. But our undergraduate admission is a bit small, so that makes it very competitive. It's a conventional university. When we started in 1948, we had only 3 faculties: arts, science, and medicine. Medicine has since grown to become a college, so we have 4 faculties under the College of Medicine. Agriculture and forestry started maybe in 1949, a year after the university was established. So the Faculty of Agriculture and Forestry is quite a big one. I guess that is the one that is most relevant to what you are doing in IITA. But the reality of I think one of the speakers also mentioned the fact that when we are looking at agriculture, we cannot be working in silos. I mean, by having faculties, it's just for practical purposes, just for convenience. So to that extent, some of our scholars in the Faculty of Science are still relevant to what you are doing here in terms of basic sciences, whether it is botany, microbiology, or zoology. Then we have a Faculty of Technology, so engineering, food technology, very important, agricultural mechanization. And in all this, we have collaborated with the IITA scientists at one time or the other. I mean, IITA is only 50 years, and if my Lord Jesus Christ tarries in the second coming, we look forward to greater collaboration with IITA over the next 50 years, such that the relationship we have with IITA will be stronger in the next, over the next 5 decades and beyond. As we know that IITA is going to outlive all of us, and if there are ways in which the University of Ibadan can continue to collaborate with IITA, I think it's in our enlightened self-interest. I also look at, I listen to some of the talks that have been going on here over the last 4 hours or 5 hours. And I think at times the more things change, the more they still remain the same. In 1971, I was in the second year in the secondary school. That was 1971, about July or August. In one of our subjects, social studies, one of the questions that our professors those days, or teachers, gave us was that we should explain why young Nigerians would not like to become farmers. So to us, it was like a riddle. And I'm not even sure whether as a country we have improved. So it's probably worse now that if our President Obasanjo was at a program on our campus early this morning, that was why he came here late. He said he went to a secondary school not long ago, and he was asking them how many of them would like to be teachers. Not even one introduced. I raised up his hand because they think once you're a teacher, you are going to be amassing poverty. And they don't want to amass poverty. But when you say how many of you like to become senators, 90% of them want to become senators of the Federal Republic, or governors, or president like Obasanjo himself. I think that's the way it goes. And for most universities in Nigeria, University of Ibadan, not excluded, you observe that the current admission exercise that is going on in UI, you observe that maybe 1/5 of the candidates apply to read medicine. In our case, specifically, I have the data, 4,238 scored 200 and above, and picked medicine as their first choice. For the medical school, if you are lucky, we admit 135. So for you to select 135 out of 4,238 who are honorarily qualified becomes a problem. And I think sometimes, about a fortnight ago, we invited one of our old students who finished from the Department of Agronomy to come and share his thoughts with us when we had the Research and Development Fair. And as we speak, he's the Group Managing Director of Sundberg IBTC. And so we are just trying to tell the students that if you read agriculture in the university, you can still become MD of a bank. Because if your aspiration is to become the MD of a bank, it's perfectly legitimate. But it's not only when you come to the university to read economics or accounting that you can become the managing director of a bank. Because at the end of the day, university is just to train you to think, to be able to think. So you can go into virtually anything. And this is just a digression, but they are all interrelated. If there are ways in which our universities, maybe in terms of our curriculum, or even right from a secondary school, we can find a way of let some of our youths to take to agriculture, even though we know that it's not so easy. Everyone likes to go to the office and tie the tie, and at the end of the month you are paid. I think is the easiest route, which is fine, but you can also go into agri. Because at the end of the day, what is important is that they want to earn a successful living, but they still have to work hard. So if there are ways in which through extension services that IITA is engaged in, and even those of us at the university, maybe we still need to do more in this respect in terms of the outreach, such that more people can be involved. And I think the point was also made that in North America, maybe only 2% of the population is honorarily engaged in agriculture. So issues like food security, then the agri value chain, those are, I think the opportunities are limitless, through which IITA and our university can continue to collaborate. And like I said, if there are ways in which anything that IITA would like us to do is most straightforward for us to collaborate, if only to the extent that the last 50 years has been quite supportive to both parties. So it's also in our own enlightened self-interest to make sure that we deepen the relationship. And if there are things we think we should do from our part, on our part, just let us know. And hopefully this year our university will turn 70. So we look forward to IITA being a collaborator. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now I call Dr. Bessie Lungaro, who is a nutritionist with SIAT. Merci.
I'd like to start by congratulating the leadership and colleagues at SIAT and presenters for a very enriching and thought-provoking day. There were a lot of reminders and critical reminders. Session 1, I loved the reminder that we need to tailor innovations and technologies to the context. Session 2, we need a paradigm shift. As a nutritionist, I believe that. And session 3, it was really inspiring to see the priorities, the foresight, and the research direction of the institution. Reflecting on all these, the question I ask is that how do we craft and sustain food systems to provide nutritious diets for all? Because regardless of how you look at it, nutrition begins with what we eat. We've heard how poor diets are contributing to the burden of disease in the world, but we've also heard about how the food systems are undergoing a lot of stress, from population growth to climate change. So it's very important that we begin to think about these things, and I'm happy with what I've heard here today. I've seen one knowledge gap that was not addressed, and that's high quality diets. What does this mean? Do we have an agreement on what a high quality diet is? Because if we do, then the food system and the gene banks will be able to give us the options that we're looking for. So I'm taking home 3 key action plans. One is to address the knowledge gap, to be able to compare diets across cultures, geographies, and time in Africa. Second is to really strengthen the strategic partnerships that we have with the private sector. We need the private sector to align with nutrition to tilt the food system towards high quality diets. And thirdly is really a focus on consumers. We have to encourage consumers, inform them to make the positive choices for diets. So looking into the future, it is clear to me that we can only fix problems in Africa if we can correctly diagnose them. We look to IITA to do this for Africa. I will not forget this. If agriculture goes wrong in Africa, nothing else will go right. We need to get it right in agriculture. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mercy. What happened to my program? Thank you. So next we now call the Director of Policy and Planning in the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Tanzania, Ms. Simkanga, to share her thought with us.
Thank you. I would like first to correct the name of my ministry, because the names keep changing. It's this month that our ministry is now the Ministry of Agriculture. Livestock and Fisheries is another ministry. We have changed. It's a new development. So thank you for inviting me to this very important event. Me and my colleague, Dr. Mansour, we are very honored to be here. It is a learning tour, a learning event. And I must admit, I am from the government, and sometimes the people from government don't admit very easily. but I must admit that we are proud of IITA in Tanzania. Very proud. They have done wonders to address challenges of various diseases, particularly on cassava and banana. We had serious problems in these two problems. For cassava, we have varieties which are tolerant to the diseases. The two diseases, Dr. Mansour can mention them clearly. Cassava mosaic and what? Yes, they have collaborated with the government to address these very serious diseases. And on banana, the research is still continuing, and we hope that we are going to get good results. And our collaboration with IITA has taken us somewhere. I have mentioned on the diseases, but also the collaboration in the youth in agriculture, and also in the area of combating the aflatoxin. There are initiatives going on right now on the aflatoxin, and the youth in agriculture and business incubation. The collaboration has been wonderful, but what I would like to say is about partnerships. We are collaborating with IITA, but in between there are a number of partners. And in Tanzania, we are witnesses of using partnership in developing agriculture. We have piloted it in the Southern Highlands and the Southcoast area, where we involved a number of partners to address issues, and together push forward the agriculture development agenda. In this area, for now, we are not mentioning the names of partners or institutions. We just say the Southcoast partners. And there are a number of Southcoast partners, some from this research, some from the agro dealers, some are producers, some are all sorts of partners. So I think in all these initiatives, the IITA is collaborating with the government. We need to strengthen the partnerships. And in order to strengthen the partnerships, we need also to strengthen the collaboration, the coordination. I am coming from the Department of Policy and Planning, which coordinates all initiatives. You can imagine sitting in the ministry, but you may have a number of initiatives which are going on and which we don't know. But for now, we are saying our main role and function as a government is to coordinate, because our partners will be working, investing, doing research and other sorts of initiatives, but our major role is to coordinate. So strengthening coordination is very, very important area to us. For now, as a government, we have, in collaboration with our stakeholders, we have formulated our second phase agriculture development program. We are proud to say that our priorities in the program and the IITA's priorities, they are in line. The commodities addressed by IITA, they are commodities which are also targeted as priority commodities in our national frameworks. And this is very important. This is very important because without aligning the initiative for IITA with our national programs, national frameworks, it will be very difficult to collaborate or to address issues which are of the same agenda. So we are, apart from the National Development Strategy, also the government, in order to address the youth in agriculture issues, we have formulated the Youth in Agriculture Strategy. And I think IITA is coming at the forefront that they have started pushing our youth, and they have programs to work with youth to make sure that we address challenges. But I should encourage IITA to make sure that we strengthen partnerships. Issue of youth is not as simple as we are mentioning here. It's very complex, very complex. We have started to address the youth issues, but we can see the complexity of it. We need many partners to make sure that we address the youth issues. Because there we would, for example, youth would require access to land, would require access to credit, would require access to technologies, would require access to markets, would require access to many sorts of issues. But these issues are dealt with different partners or different institutions, different stakeholders. You can imagine how we are going to handle this, trying to pull all stakeholders, all partners, having the same agenda, making sure that youth are involved in agriculture, but they don't have land, they don't have access to credit. So it's an issue of partnerships, the banks, the government institutions, the regulatory institutions, the ministries, not one ministry, the Ministry of Agriculture, a number of ministries would like a number of partners. So if you want to succeed in this area of youth, developing agriculture using youth, we need to strengthen partnerships and coordination. We need somewhere like a central coordination point. Where do we coordinate all initiatives? I understand IITA is doing, but as a government also we have another camp, the youth camp, somewhere else. But you may find IITA doesn't know what is happening in the Congo camp. So I think we need collaboration, strengthening partnerships, strengthening coordination, and we have tried under SACOT, we have a central coordination point, the SACOT Center. It is doing wonders, and it is coordinating us, regardless you are from the government, you are from the private sector, you are from the NGO, all sorts of partners. We are coordinating at this central center, and we are succeeding. We are succeeding, and I think in this area of youth in agriculture, we are going to succeed if we strengthen partnerships and coordination. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nkanga. Now we know you are Director of Policy and Planning in the Ministry of Agriculture. We don't add the others. Thank you. Okay, now we want to move down, up a bit north to Kenya, and we'll call the Director General, Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization, Dr. Eliud K. Kiriga, to share some thoughts with us.
The DG and the management and staff of IITA, all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to join you in this IITA 50th Anniversary Food Security Conference. I'm glad to be part of this conference representing one of the national agricultural research institutions in Africa that have partnered with IITA over the years. I'm grateful to IITA for the opportunity to partner to fight food insecurity in Africa and the rest of the world. CALRO is the national research organization in Kenya that was established in the year 2014 after a merger of the former CARI, which a lot of you know, Tea Research Foundation of Kenya, Coffee Research Foundation, and the Kenya Sugar Research Foundation. The objective of these reforms in research in Kenya was to restructure agriculture and livestock research to be a dynamic, innovative, and well-coordinated system, and regulate research outputs to make them responsive to the needs of the Kenyan farmers. Today's meeting is certainly a special occasion for me, the entire CALRO family, and other NARs in Africa, as we reflect on what IITA at 50 truly means to us in the region. IITA's footprints are especially remarkable in CALRO's Food Crops Research Institute that hosts maize, cassava, banana, cowpea, and soybean research programs in Kenya, as well as at our Agricultural Mechanization Research Institute that hosts the AFLA-SAFE production facility for biological control of aflatoxin in maize and other food crops. This facility is very important and will be beneficial not only to Kenya, but to the region, that is the East African region. As you know, maize is an important food crop grown in diverse agroecological zones and many farming systems, and consumed by people with varying food preferences and socioeconomic background in sub-Saharan Africa. The central role of maize as a staple food in the region compares to that of rice or wheat in Asia, with consumption rates being especially high in Eastern and Southern Africa. Of the countries where maize forms the highest percentage of calorie intake in the national diet globally, over 70% of those are in Africa. In Kenya, it is a top cereal crop, both in terms of production and consumption, where most of the communities, especially the older members of the community, will say that they have not eaten food when they have not had ugali. I deliberately single out aflatoxin control innovation as the hallmark of IITA's collaborative program with CALRO that addresses a problem that affects very important food commodities, especially maize, sorghum, wheat, barley, and other cereals, and it invariably impacts on food and nutritional security and the economies of households in this region. In my view, one of the most remarkable innovative features in IITA's collaborative programs has been the emphasis on multidisciplinary teamwork involving breeders, pathologists, chemists, biometricians, socioeconomists, nutritionists, physiologists, agronomists, and so on. They have carried this model to national programs globally and is truly worth emulating. Moreover, the free sharing and exchange of jam plasma and information has for years provided an excellent mechanism for interaction with NAS partners, including us in CALRO. As my organization joins IITA at 50 celebrations, I humbly recognize the CGIAR system, which not only have established a framework for unrestricted and mutual partnership in agricultural research across nations, but is also profoundly upfront in feeding the world. I recognize that many of the excellent researchers and policymakers assembled in this room today are proud, patriotic, global hunger fighters. It is worth considering that many of the agricultural problems faced by individual countries are not unique to them alone, but affects all regions of the world. Similarly, many of the potential solutions to these problems create regional impacts. Neither crops nor their enemies recognize national boundaries. Here I celebrate IITA and identify with its 50 years of dedicated contribution to agricultural research without borders. On behalf of the national agricultural research institutions in the region, I wish to appreciate the investment IITA and other partners, including the donor community, that they have made together with us to combat the rigors of renewed crop diseases and other stresses in our region. The refreshing aspiration of CALRO heartily joining IITA at 50 celebration could best be contextualized by reflecting on the many current and historical NAS-IITA joint research ventures, as well as the numerous investments in human and infrastructure capacities within the different research institutions. This has led to several achievements that include released improved high-yielding varieties, some with resilience to biotic and abiotic stresses, improved nutritional quality, as well as state-of-the-art facilities and highly trained and skilled personnel. We are indeed very grateful to IITA and look forward to more IITA investment in these organizations and stronger collaboration, especially in mitigating the effects of climate change, emerging pests like the fall armyworm, emerging diseases like the MLND, issues of nutrition, issues of residue in food, and many other areas. I have deliberately taken you through a protracted speech because of the fruitful engagements we and other NAS in the region have had with IITA through our long histories. It is my optimistic view that as we celebrate IITA at 50, our common goal, our common focus, and our common obligation of feeding the world and indeed contributing to the welfare of fellow mankind shall profitably endure moving into the future. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you so much for those powerful words. I'd like to now call Dr. Adetunji Oredikpe, the representative of the Agriculture Daughters Working Group, and also he is from the World Bank. Dr. Adetunji, please.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank you for inviting us to this important occasion. We have a donor working group in the agri sector. We are, as our last count, we are about 25 plus, trying to do little things to support government programs in Nigeria. What we do at this gathering is to ensure that we respond to government requests in a coordinated manner. And I've just discussed with your Director for Partnership that IITA should be part of us since you have some representation in Abuja. Having said that, I would like to make just 3 comments. The first one is to challenge IITA to work smart. Working smart by influencing research. I know you undertake a lot of research work in the institute, but you can do more by influencing what is going on around us. When I look in the room, I was thinking I will see Agri-Research Council of Nigeria sitting somewhere, if not for anything, to celebrate the kind of research effort that is going on at the regional center that we have in Ibadan here. So let's leverage on this other institution. I've talked about our organization. There is some little research. You are working, I listen to the number of crops that you are actually looking at. Cassava come out clearly. I listen to issue around rice, sorghum. When you look at some of our projects, take Fadawan for example, I know we're already collaborating, but there are so many other programs doing little things here and there. By influencing what they do, you achieve more. The second point is the issue raised by His Excellency, the former president. Talk about dissemination. I will not stand here to ask IITA to actually go down the lane to disseminate, but again, you can leverage on those other platforms that's actually established to do that kind of job. The donor platform is another very good one that can help you to reach out. For example, Fadama alone has been able to reach about close to 1 million farmers in the last 3-4 years. So if that is one of those that should preach some of the good things that you are doing, you will have covered some miles. And that can also apply to most of our other partners. The third leg of my contribution will be, how do we take advantage of some of the global trends that we determine the future of agriculture in this country? A number of them have been mentioned today. I listened carefully to those who analyze the structure of our population. We have aging population. The younger ones that are supposed to fill in the gap, they don't have the right skill. So as we move, this will be some of the issues that we will be looking at. Again, somebody mentioned earlier today that science and technology is now moving more into private domain. That is critical. We still have our small farmers out there. How do we take care of them? We need to build a win-win relationship that will enable those high flyers, the big-time players that can pay for science and technology, that are actually commanding the direction of science and technology, to be able to work with this one. And we have a few examples. We have the Productive Alliance, which is being preached in most of our projects now, that encourages some relationship between the small farmers and the big-time farmers. It has to be win-win for everybody. Just before I take my seat, I also like to re-emphasize the fact that climate change is real. The World Bank is responding big. We have a presidential directive to work with national institutions to address this. Recently, we are trying to train some youths in agriculture, and we partner with 60 national institutions. That is the minimum that we can do in this country. Again, the issue of man-made and natural disaster is key, and I'm happy that some of these have been taken on board. So thank you once again for inviting us, and we look forward to even greater partnership in the next 50 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oredipe. At this point, we would like to call our representative coming from AGRA, Dr. Kehinde Makinde, Country Manager, AGRA, Nigeria.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to be here today. I want to particularly convey the appreciation of the President of AGRA, Dr. Agnes Kalibata, and the entire management and leadership of AGRA. AGRA is very happy to be associated with IITA, and we look forward to stronger partnership in the future. For me, it's a very big privilege to be home. I'd say that because 1988, I joined IITA as a research associate, and I spent 2 full decades here. When I spoke with my colleague yesterday, one of them was surprised, 20 years in an organization, and he felt that was a lot. But for us who had the privilege to work here, we found that that wasn't really a lot. When I joined, to be sure you finish a whole year at IITA was very difficult because we were kept on our toes. And every year, you had to do something. So it was a big learning ground, a big opportunity for me. And I want to thank God for the opportunity that I had here, and also to be mentored by several of bosses that are here and several other colleagues and partners. Before I go further, I would also like to acknowledge the presence of some of our leaders at AGRA. Particularly, let me acknowledge the presence of our pioneer leaders. And I'm talking of our president, Dr. Namanga Ngongi, who was the first president of AGRA. Also here, you can see Kwame Akufo-Addo, who is now at IITA and used to be the chief operating officer. And of course, Professor Monty Jones was a very strong member of the AGRA board. They were the people who worked together with others to put AGRA on a strong footing as a high-performing organization, okay, that's able to deliver on strategy. So thank you very much for that. Now, AGRA and IITA has had a lot of strong partnerships in the past. And we are just hopeful that we can continue to work together, okay, to build on the relationship that has started a few years back. We started as an organization in 2006, and were funded by a partnership between Rockefeller Foundation and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And the goal was to assist millions of smallholder farmers in Africa to lift themselves out of poverty. And that work, is still continuing. And I am glad that we have had the opportunity to be able to rest, on IITA in areas that we felt great need, okay, for the expertise and the contributions that IITA had to offer. Today, AGRA has reinvented, and let me indicate that AGRA has learned a lot from a strategy refresh, because after 10 years of work, we had to sit back and to see how can we make this transformation happen more quickly. When we started, felt that we would be able to quickly get at agricultural transformation in Africa, but it has been a little slower than we thought we'll be able to get. But one thing is we've learned quite a lot. That is reflected in the work that we do. So for now, we have changed strategies, and one of the things that you will see at the new AGRA is integration. We have better integration than we had before. We are also working much more at country levels now, and that's why I, for instance, am here in Nigeria because we have learned from partners that we needed to enhance our country presence, okay, in the different countries where we work. We have had operations in 18 countries before, but we're now focused on fewer countries, which 11 countries, where we are rolling out strong business plans to help us strengthen agricultural transformation work in the different countries. Let me quickly add that what we do now, there are three main planks on which our strategy rests. The first is what we call government support. And we got there because we recognized that, yes, it's critical for us to build capacity, strengthen, private sector and all that. If we did not work with a different government, and I'm saying that because I know that IITA, also is in this business of agricultural transformation. I know there has been strong partnership with the government, and I just want to say that is the right way to continue to go. We would like to see a situation where we all work together to help national governments in Africa to be able to take leadership for agricultural transformation in the countries. This will be very critical if you want to see an enduring transformation. It's one thing to catalyze agricultural transformation. It's another thing to sustain that transformation. Several of us may know the story of Malawi, for instance, which 10, 12 years ago was donating food. But today, Malawi is receiving food aid. So we would like to see that this continues. And the other plank is catalytic initiatives that we are doing at the state level where we work to help smallholder farmers and to be able to deliver increased productivity and income for smallholder farmers in those places where we work. Now, for lessons here and for what I have seen, I believe that IITA is going to get stronger and stronger. But I want to request that we look at ways in which we can better, help our different partner organizations to take responsibility, for, agricultural transformation in the country. Some of this may need to happen through the deployment, of knowledge. And I think it's important, to enhance knowledge management in the institute to be able to do that. I have a wish. I don't think I will be here in the next 50 years when IITA will celebrate 100. But it is my desire to see that the research agenda that will be there at IITA at that time will be completely different from what we have now. I'm looking forward to a time when our grandchildren will be here and we will have issues, or let's say situations that have been described, like Dr. Sagenga indicated, that you have a different set of crop, delivering on different things. It looks utopian, but I think what will be a good service to our generation coming after us is to see that effectively this generation that has gone ahead of them has changed the story of Africa from what it used to be, and now they are facing a different future. Thank you very much again for your time, and please accept our sincere appreciation for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are almost there, so encourage yourself. I mean, in a marathon race, the last 5 kilometers is often the most challenging. But when you think of the goal at the end, you are energized. So just energize yourself. I think we have just 2 more remarks to go. And at this point, I'd like to call on our representative from FAO, our representative from FAO. It's now Engineer Precious Agbeso. Oh, you coming now? Yeah. I was giving a card that somebody is coming in place of you. Okay. All right. That was fake news I was giving. But now we can call on Mr. Sufyan Koroma, Country Program Manager of FAO Nigeria.
His Excellency, the Honorable Professor Monty Jones, Director General of IITA, distinguished participants, let me once again, on behalf of FAO, congratulate the IITA for having built a track record that has contributed immensely to food and nutrition security and overall agricultural development in sub-Saharan Africa over the last 50 years. One cannot talk about IITA without mentioning the long-standing relationship between FAO and the CGIAR. As one of the fathers of the CGIAR in the 60s, FAO is currently playing motherhood to the CGs in Rome. Since the IITA started crawling and walking, FAO has benefited from the immense knowledge generated by the research and development programs of the IITA for enriching the technical quality of the support that FAO provides to countries. Similarly, the IITA has benefited from the increased visibility of its work provided by the wider varying levels of actors that FAO have access to, particularly at the policy-making level of governments. We see this as a suitable model going forward into the next 50 years. IITA's mandate is focused on the generation of agricultural innovations to meet Africa's most pressing challenges of hunger, malnutrition, poverty, and natural resource degradation. FAO's mandate is to raise the levels of nutrition, improve agricultural productivity, better the lives of rural population, and contribute to the growth of the world economy. Eradicating hunger and achieving food security is at the heart of FAO's efforts. Thus, given the natural synergy between the mandates of the two organizations, FAO strongly believes that the IITA has an important contribution to make to the current areas of FAO focus, i.e., eradicating hunger, producing and managing resources sustainably, reducing rural poverty, improving participation of smallholders in food systems, and increasing resilience of rural communities. Although the CG Consortium signed an MOU with FAO in 2013, looking forward, there are plans to have specific partnership framework between the FAO and IITA. The proposed partnership between IITA and FAO will certainly continue and will be strengthened in all the current thematic areas of the respective mandates, as well as emerging challenges over the next 50 years. Collaboration and partnership will likely be based on information sharing, implementation of specific joint projects at national or regional level, exchange of experts, mutual involvement in program evaluation, overview function, or priority setting exercises, etc. The overarching framework as we see it will be anchored on the Zero Hunger Initiative and the Feed Africa strategy of the African Development Bank within the context of the Transforming African Agricultural Technologies Initiative, the TAT. Other specific areas will focus on conservation and sustainable use of genetic resources for food and agriculture, climate change and climate-smart agriculture, including nutrition-sensitive agriculture, sustainable food systems for healthier diets, support to the development and implementation of national food security and nutrition strategies, including the technology platforms, transboundary pest and plant diseases like the fall armyworm, improve participation of youth in agriculture and agribusiness, and women empowerment, etc. More precisely, the common challenge of eradicating extreme poverty and hunger while ensuring environmental sustainability provides common objectives that substantiate the need to improve cooperation to better articulate efforts in areas of agriculture, food and nutrition security, and rural development over the next 5 decades. Finally, we believe that any future cooperation should truly be based on lessons learned from the past, successes and failures. The past have proven that FAO and IITA have clear complementarities that could be further developed through improved mechanisms for collaboration under the common goal of achieving the SDGs and the path towards the next 50 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sufyan. Those are very pertinent points that we need to follow up on. Now, to bring it all to a final point, I'd like to call Dr. George Mavrotas, Senior Research Fellow and Head of IFPRI's program in Nigeria. IFPRI, from their policy angle, are very strong partners to us, and it's great that you are here. So please come on and share your thoughts.
Thank you so much. Honorable Minister of Agriculture of Sierra Leone, Director General of IITA, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Board of IITA, IITA staff, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is really my immense pleasure, and in my capacity as the head of IFPRI office in Abuja, and as the leader of IFPRI's Nigeria Strategy Support Program, to be part of this important anniversary conference today, celebrating 50 really great years of IITA's outstanding contribution to the transformation of African agriculture. Let me also take the opportunity to convey the warmest regards and congratulations of the Director General of IFPRI, Dr. Sengen Fan, and the entire senior management of IFPRI for this outstanding contribution to you, the Director General. As many of you already know, IFPRI's research over the years has changed the way the international development community thinks about the links between agriculture and nutrition, and highlighted the synergies with health, education, gender, and social protection that can improve people's life, health, and nutrition. IFPRI also believes that by working together, the global community can sustainably defeat hunger and malnutrition in the world. Collaborating with development practitioners, policymakers, non-governmental organizations, and the private sector, and also through our very active country strategy support programs in Africa and elsewhere, IFPRI contributes to achieving this goal by providing needed evidence for country and region-led policies that help to ensure that all people have access to safe, sufficient, nutritious, and sustainably grown food. IFPRI's country strategy support programs in Africa and elsewhere provide country-specific supports for development strategies by building local capacity, generating new knowledge through policy-relevant research, and fostering policy dialogue and promoting policy outreach. This has also been a central mission for the Nigeria Strategy Support Program in Nigeria since its inception back in 2007, in which I'm very privileged, actually, and honored to direct the last 4 years, including its current new phase generously supported by USAID Nigeria. With a strong presence on the ground and highly committed and dedicated research and support staff, who work very closely with the Ministry of Agriculture and various stakeholders working in the Nigeria agricultural sector through innovative capacity building activities, academically rigorous, but at the same time policy-relevant research, and via various policy dialogue dissemination activities in order to promote policy outreach. The IFPRI Nigeria Strategy Support Program Office in Abuja has also been instrumental in supporting various important policy initiatives in the Nigerian agricultural sectors recently by the federal government of Nigeria, which include, among others, the launch of the Agriculture Promotion Policy in June 2016, the new Gender Policy Initiative in Agriculture, the launch of the Food Security and Nutrition Strategy in May 2017, and currently by supporting the joint sector review process of the Ministry of Agricultural Development and the overall CAD implementation process in Nigeria. IFPRI has also worked very closely with the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, the RCN Council, in order to develop the overall framework for the transformation of RCN. So against this background, I'm very confident that various partnership opportunities can be explored between IITA and IFPRI Nigeria, taking also into account the very substantial research and policy work that both institutes have conducted in the country so far. And with my brother Christy, we have already started discussions, preliminary discussions at this stage regarding the next stage for this important partnership, and I'm very happy that we can continue the discussions now from this platform. So this important conference provides an excellent platform to discuss this further and develop a partnership framework for further collaboration in the near future towards the successful transformation of African agriculture and a world free of hunger and malnutrition. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, George. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the formal comments, and we are now basically closing in a few minutes. We're now in the 2 kilometers to go in our marathon. I would like to call for the report of the rapporteurs. They are going to tell us their interpretation of the issues that we have raised, and some of the points that they feel came out strongly from the various presentations. So we'll give them some time to present. And as they present, please make notes. If there's something they've put in there, we didn't say it at all any time today, point it out, or something that was, okay. So, it's going to be presented by Debo Akande. Let's appreciate him for they've done a lot.
Thank you. So for us, the key takeaways are quite extensive, but we try to narrow them down and look at what is very common to all the presentations that were made. And as Christy rightly pointed out, if at any point in time you feel that there's something that you have mentioned that has not been captured, we are very happy to have that and consider it as part of the takeaway. The celebration of the IITA 58th anniversary tagged towards food and nutrition security for the next half century, challenges, opportunity, and strategies attracted about 300 experts drawn from the research community, policymakers, and the donor community. The conference was about celebration, but also reflecting on the emerging challenges of food security and looking forward into the future with emphasis on what role IITA could play in the context of a solution provider and as a driver of agricultural transformation in Africa. The Commissioner for Rural Economy and Agriculture and the African Union Commission, Joseph Sako, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, IITA General Director, Dr. Interega Saginga, Chair of IITA Board, Dr. Bruce Coleman, and Chair of IITA at 50, Dr. Kwesi at Accra, addressed participants during the opening section. 9 presentations were made on the different topics cutting across farming system, sustainable intensification, agroecological, climate change, youth and agriculture, impact of numerical rice, molecular science, developing gen banks, and IITA research and orientation in the future. The following are the key takeaways. The role of IITA in Africa agricultural transformation and the food security in the last 50 years was highly appreciated. Specific mention was made to the success against cassava mealybug and the development of new and improved varieties that have helped in increasing African agricultural productivity. Second, IITA needs to strengthen collaboration with African Union Commission and to align its research priorities with the Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program, the CADI. IITA focus on the commercialization of innovation through business incubation platform model should be further encouraged to support scaling up of agricultural research innovation. Leadership was considered critical in African agricultural transformation, both at the national and institutional level. Reference was made to the leadership of Dr. Interega Saginga and Chair of IITA, Bruce Coleman, who have helped in the transformation of African agriculture. It is well noted that there is no silver bullet on how to approach and solve the problem of African agriculture. In this context, approaches innovation such as push and pull, ecological, sustainable intensification are possibilities that could provide solution to the food question in Africa. The conference recognized that both research and delivery are important for development to occur, and researchers must pursue the two to achieve sustainable development. ICT should become a major driving force to facilitate large-scale dissemination of information, knowledge, and decision support tools in agricultural research and delivery. There is a tremendous urgency to change our food system. The pace of innovation and change need to be accelerated. It is well accepted that youth are key to African agricultural transformation. They have several entry points. They need to engage and should not be passive participants, but the mechanism for their engagement should be backed by research and evidence model. Africa has the potential to increase the production and productivity of staple crops to meet its rising demand and cut the import bill of more than 35 billion per annum. A good example that was given was America rice that has proven to have reduced the import bill of rice into Africa. Participants called for the better policies by government to support research, including sustainable production and reduce importation of commodities that can be produced by local farmers. Recognizing the impact of climate on agriculture, the need for agricultural innovations in the context of climate change was emphasized. Value for money of our research can increase tremendously if we key into large-scale government initiatives. And finally, CGIAR joint banks hold tremendous diversity staple crops. Value addition to this collection is underway through new discovery research. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Any points or any issues anybody might want to raise? Let me say, though, that there are going to be 2 or 3 other bullets added, which would come from the session we have just had. We have our rapporteur for that session, so his content could not be built into this, but it will stress the importance of partnership and some of the key things that we have heard from across the partners who are here. Are we all comfortable with this frame? If we are, can I see hands waving up? Very good. So it is endorsed. Thank you so much to the rapporteurs who have done a wonderful job in such a tight time squeeze. Well, if you can just stretch your hand and shake somebody's hand, because that person has been a survivor. This is the Survivor series. You know? This is the Survivor series. Yeah. And we have all won. You know, if you are here by this time, you have won. And for the prize, we're going to have a cocktail. And all those who are not here are not going to be allowed. So you are going to be here for the cocktail. It's going to be wonderful. But let me first of all thank all the speakers. It was a very tight, schedule, and they were all very gracious in accepting, to be able to come. And let me say, for a number of these speakers, we didn't pay a cent for them. I had to use all kinds of tricks in the books to really tell them, hey, we are partners. You've got to come and support yourself, and it worked very well. So, and you could see the preparation that they did. They really put this thing seriously. So I'd like us to appreciate the speakers, all of them. Secondly, I'd like us to appreciate our dear partners. What will we be without partners? All who came in here. Wonderful. But I want to mention the board of IITA. Board members, normally in these sort of settings, probably in the opening session, they will come in and make a point and then they disappear. But not these IITA board members. The chair of the board is here, the vice is there, and the members are all over. So let's appreciate them. It's been really wonderful. We thank them. We also want to thank the DG, Sanginga, and the management of IITA. We have about 3-4 DBGs who are here. We thank all of them. And let's appreciate them. I think so. Yeah. Finally, we want to say that we're very grateful. Our biggest resource in IITA is people, is the staff that we work with. And IITA is not just Ibadan. IITA is all from the presentations that you saw. So I just want to see the real survivors. If you are from Southern Africa Hub, can you stand up? Whether you are IITA or partner from Southern Africa Hub, can you stand up? Okay. Thank you very much, coming from all those areas. Now let's move to Eastern Africa. Eastern Africa Hub. Are there any here? From Eastern Africa. Yeah? Thank you, thank you. Now we move to the Central Africa Hub. Anybody? Good, good, good. All right. And then finally, to West Africa. Let's see West Africa. Thank you all so much. I want to thank the conference center facility people. As for the International House, we will find time to thank them. They've been absolutely wonderful in making sure that we are all very well taken care of. Tomorrow is going to be another day. And I want to specifically invite the invited guests, the NAS partners and the other partner organizations that are there. If you are interested in taking a peep into what exactly is going on in this business incubation platform and the youth platform, please, where is Wale? Okay, Wale is at the back there. Please, we just want to have an idea. First of all, can I see by hand, in a rough sense, how many people would like to join that session tomorrow morning? About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that gives us an idea. Probably it will end up being like 15. But at least we know what to arrange for in terms of a vehicle. And it will start from the front of International House. From in front of International House at 8:30 prompt. And it has to be 8:30 take off. So if you leave your room at 8:30, you will meet us there. 8:30 take off. Now, the other thing is, from 10:30, we are all required to be on the football field, and that is where the IITA Open Day, and that's when it's a big family thing, where staff and their families and everybody, if you've been able to get your, we call this Ankara, on, tomorrow you'll find 80% of the people dressed up in this, so you can also wear that. But if you don't have that, and you want to buy an IITA t-shirt in the IITA International House, there is a corporate store, and they have shirts that I'm sure everybody can get their size. So you're all welcome to join us. Now, you require a ticket to be able to enter the grounds. So Mary, where is Mary? Mary Badejo, oh, Mary is there. Okay, is that Mary? Okay, Mary is there. So if you are going to participate in the open day and you don't have a ticket, she's got tickets in that envelope. So please see her so that she can give you a ticket for the open day. I believe that is, of course, there's a cocktail reception as soon as we finish from here. So once again, I want to thank all of you and appreciate everybody for the big work. And the final closing, just I'll ask the jury, because this event is an event being organized by the Research for Development, it's part of our Research for Development Day. So I think we should say the final word.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kwesi. And I think maybe after a very, very, very long day and a very, very, very long week for some of us, everything that could be said and appreciated about IITA and partners are already done. But I think we also should appreciate the fantastic work that Dr. Kwesi Asakra has done for the 50-year celebration throughout this year, not only today, but actually throughout this year. So the final thing we should do is to give him a really, really great applause. And now you can go for your cocktail.